He was one of the most brutal drug lords in the entire history of Mexico. His cunning, cruelty, and stealth led him to become the supreme figure of one of the most bloodthirsty cartels in history. On the morning of Sunday, February 22nd, 2026, the killing of Nemesio Ruben Segura Cervantes, known as El Mencho, was announced. He was the top leader of the Jalisco New Generation Cartel. El Mencho, 59, was a co-founder of the cjng, an organization that, over the course of a decade, managed to expand across much of the national territory, consolidating itself as one of the criminal structures with the greatest operational capacity and level of violence. The United States government had offered a reward of up to $15 million for information leading to his capture. While in Mexico, he was listed as one of the country's highest priority targets, essentially the Mexican version of Osama bin Laden. What began as a chain of rumors accompanied by outbreaks of violence in different parts of the country ultimately escalated into one of the most consequential events for Mexican national security in the past decade. According to preliminary information, the operation combined high-level strategic intelligence, interagency coordination, intelligence provided by the United States, and precise tactical execution. The operation involved special forces units of the Mexican Army and the National Guard, as well as the Attorney General's Office of Mexico, the National Intelligence Center, and military intelligence divisions. The question now is inevitable. How was this mega operation really put together? What role did the intelligence shared by the United States play? And above all, what does the death of the Lord of the Roosters mean for the future of the war against drug trafficking? Who will succeed him? And how will the criminal landscape in Mexico be reshaped? You're about to find out. The first signs of the operation began a day earlier, on February 21st, 2026. Residents of the exclusive Tapalpa Country Club complex in the state of Jalisco reported unusual aerial activity. Two military helicopters flew several circles over the area before withdrawing. Nothing scandalous at first glance, but in Tapalpa, and especially in that residential area, this type of military movement is far from normal. Tapalpa is a pueblo mágico and a well-known tourist destination for rest and leisure, famous for its forested landscapes and isolated cabins in the Sierra Madre del Sur. However, it is also widely known that some parts of the region serve as strongholds of the Jalisco New Generation Cartel. That was the first sign. On the morning of Sunday, February 22nd, at around 7 a.m., just as dawn was breaking over the mountain forests, the scene changed dramatically. Witnesses reported the sighting of 4 military helicopters, possibly UH-60 Blackhawks armed with M134 miniguns, accompanied by 2 T-6 techs and 2 aircraft from the Mexican Air Force. At 7:20 a.m., tighter maneuvers began over the Concry Club residential area and El Pinto Ranch, located about 7 kilometers from the center of Tapalpa, near the Nujal Dam. Minutes later, the first bursts of gunfire were heard. According to multiple eyewitness accounts, armed helicopters opened fire toward the ground as Mexican federal forces advanced along the rural roads leading to El Pinto Ranch. The confrontation reportedly lasted for approximately 2 hours. For years, El Mencho had built a complex protection network that included safe houses, security rings, alternate routes, and hideouts spread across the states of Jalisco, Colima, Nayarit, Guanajuato, and Michoacan. His constant mobility was his primary shield. That operational discipline fueled, for years, the perception that his capture was virtually impossible, much like what we once believed about Ismael Zambada Garcia. While official information remains limited and many details are unlikely to be disclosed anytime soon, all indications suggest that the key events took place at El Pinto Ranch, located just 2 kilometers from the Tapalpa Country Club complex. It is not known with certainty what El Mencho was doing at or near that ranch. It may have been a period of rest in the forests of the Sierra Madre del Sur, or perhaps a strategic meeting. We simply do not know. What is consistent with his track record, however, is that he was traveling with his closest security circle, essentially his Praetorian Guard, as he did on virtually all of his movements. What they apparently failed to detect was that the operation was already underway. According to an official statement from the Secretariat of National Defense, SEDENA, Special Forces of the Mexican Army, possibly from the Joint Special Operations Force, FEC, or from the Paratrooper Rifleman Brigade Special Forces, supported by the Immediate Reaction Special Force of the National Guard, FERI, carried out an operation based on months of strategic intelligence. This effort involved collaboration with the National Intelligence Center and the Specialized Prosecutor's Office for Organized Crime, FIMDO, which in turn had received extremely important intelligence packages from the United States for this operation. Whether under the approval of President Claudia Sheinbaum, Security Secretary Omar Garcia Harfuch, Defense Secretary Ricardo Trevilla Trejo, or all three, someone at the very top of the security apparatus gave the green light. During the intense exchange of fire, 4 members of the Jalisco New Generation Cartel were killed at the scene and 3 others were seriously injured. All of them were allegedly members of El Mencho's closest security ring. In some closed channels, alleged names of high-ranking members of the cjng have begun to circulate, including El Sapo, El Alacran, El Rebelde R1, reportedly the son of El Tio R3, J1, El Frisa, El Tigre, El Chaparro, and Commander Pi. It is important to emphasize that all of these names and aliases come from unofficial sources, and their alleged involvement in deaths while attempting to protect El Mencho have not been confirmed by Mexican or U.S. authorities. Among the 3 cjng members who were critically injured was Nemesio Ruben Seguera Cervantes himself, known as El Mencho or the Lord of the Roosters, as well as one of his most prominent lieutenants, Gonzalo Mendoza Gaitan, alias El Sapo, identified as one of the most violent and strategically significant operators within the cjng. During the operation, authorities seized improvised armored vehicles known as monsters or narco tanks, rocket launchers with anti-armor capability, and high-caliber assault rifles and light machine guns. In Jalisco, Governor Pablo Lemus Navarro confirmed what many already suspected: a high-impact operation was underway in Tapalpa. The death of El Mencho triggered an immediate reaction from the cjng. From the early hours, authorities recorded narco blockades on highways, vehicle arsons, and attacks on shops and businesses across different parts of Jalisco. In several cities, public transportation services were suspended as a preventive measure, while authorities urged the population to remain in their homes. As the hours passed, the blockades spread to neighboring states, suggesting a coordinated reaction aimed more at generating pressure and chaos than at controlling specific territory. In response to the magnitude of the criminal backlash, authorities in Jalisco activated Code Red, the highest alert level in the state. This tactic, known as urban diversionary terrorism, is not intended to conquer territory, but to overwhelm the state's response capacity, forcing it to disperse forces to put out fires, protect civilians, and restore order. Its real objective was to dilute the pressure on the operation's critical focal point. This was likely one of the largest episodes of narco blockades and federal deployment to secure highways in Mexico's recent history. It was not until 11:10 a.m. that an official statement confirmed Nemesio Ruben Seguera Cervantes had died. The statement clarified that the cartel leader did not die immediately at the point of contact. According to the official version, El Mencho was captured alive, but seriously wounded during the operation and later succumbed to his injuries during an aerial evacuation to Mexico City. Not in a cell, not in a courtroom, but between the mountains and the sky, after an armed clash with special forces that ultimately ended his life. Unlike previous operations that resulted in tactical withdrawals, this time the governments of Mexico and Jalisco sustained the offensive until the high-priority objective was achieved. Following the official statement, President Claudia Sheinbaum publicly congratulated the Mexican Army and the National Guard, while Security Secretary Omar Garcia Harfich emphasized interagency coordination and confirmed the accuracy of the reported events. The cost was real. 3 Special Forces operatives lost their lives, and by the close of February 22, 2026, 21 National Guard members, 18 Army personnel, and 3 officers had fallen in the line of duty, with 13 wounded nationwide. The bodies of Nemesio Segura Cervantes and El Sapo arrived in Mexico City under strict security protocols, where comprehensive forensic examinations, including autopsy, biometric identification, DNA analysis, dental review, and detailed documentation, were conducted to confirm identity and preserve the chain of custody. The statement by Mexico's Secretariat of National Defense revealed bilateral coordination with the United States, which played a decisive role through intelligence, surveillance, and reconnaissance (ISR) platforms, satellite communications, and logistical tracking. The Interagency Joint Task Force Against the Cartels, JTFCC, under U.S. Northern Command, had contributed intelligence, though the operation itself was fully designed and executed by Mexico. The death of El Mencho dealt a direct blow to the cjng, a cartel historically led under a disciplined, vertical command structure, unlike the federated Sinaloa cartel. Analysts have identified 4 potential successors: Juan Carlos Valencia Gonzalez, L03, stepson of El Mencho and leader of the elite group; Audias Flores Silva, El Jardinero, strategist controlling synthetic drug trafficking and security in key zones; Heraclio Guerrero Martinez, LTO, regional operator with strategic alliances in Michoacan and chemical precursors control; and Ricardo Ruiz Velasco R, media-exposed operational commander known for violent propaganda and armed response. While the fall of El Mencho marks the most significant turning point in Mexico's recent security strategy, the structure he built remains. Financial networks, armed cells, logistical routes, and mid-level command now face a period of redefinition. The coming weeks and months will determine whether this strike initiates structural weakening of the cjng or triggers a more aggressive and decentralized reconfiguration.